There's where you are, which is miserable, and then there's where you want to be. And the thing between here and there is coming clean. Hi, I'm Andy. Welcome to the Church Basement. Today, I wanted to share a little bit about what it was like for me to come clean. When you come clean, you are taking all the stuff that you have bottled up, hidden inside you, and you are letting it out. It could be things you've done, thought, felt, or even things that have been done to you. There's a lot of shame around this stuff. You look at yourself differently, you don't like what you see, and you worry what others would think if they knew. In recovery, we like to say we're only as sick as our secrets, meaning the more secrets you have, the worse you're probably doing. The more shame you have, the worse you feel about yourself, and the more you struggle with things. But if we take all those secrets and we let them out, there can be healing, there can be freedom from the shame and guilt, and there can be relief, like letting go of a heavy weight that you've been carrying around. If you've gone through this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, all that stuff that you're keeping in, what you feel, it's the worst. And maybe the thought of coming clean has crossed your mind, but the fear surrounding this idea of actually doing it is just completely overwhelming. If this is where you're at, I totally understand where you're coming from. So here's what happened with me. So a few days before I came clean, I had a really interesting conversation with a guy. I don't remember all the exact details, but I remember enough, and I remember what I was feeling at the time. There was a lot of shame, there was a lot of guilt, there was fear, there was grief. I was at such a low point. I was just a wreck. I was miserable. And I'm talking to this guy, and he could probably clearly see that I was a wreck. And he mentions this passage from Luke's gospel about God's grace and getting out from our shame and our guilt. So here's the full passage from Luke. This is what Jesus says. What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he has lost one of them, does not leave the 99 in the open country and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and his neighbors, saying to them, "Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost." Just so I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who need no repentance. So I remember walking away from that conversation having a very vivid picture in my mind, and I was beginning to realize what I was about to do. I was going to come clean. To my wife, to my church, to my friends and family, anyone who needed to know. And by doing so, I knew I was going to basically blow up my life. And I had no idea what was going to happen. But I knew that things were probably going to get messy and life was probably going to get hard. But at the same time, I knew and I really believed that while I was going to come clean and my life was going to start unraveling, there was going to be this massive celebration in heaven. I had this picture in my mind, I can still see it, of just a huge crowd of people freaking out, fist pumping, celebrating, jumping around, just being wild, like something you'd see fans do on a game-winning play. That is the image of Luke 15:7, heaven celebrating, just burnt into my memory. This celebration, it wasn't about the condition of my choices or my life leading up to that moment. It was about the condition of my heart in that moment. The softening up, the opening up. Coming clean is the beginning of a beautiful process of stepping into the light, accepting whatever comes your way, and knowing and trusting that God was going to take care of you. So I looked at this as the end of an old way of life and the beginning of a new way of life. And this new life, it was going to suck for a while. I accepted that. But the secrets would be out, the shame would be dealt with, and things were going to get better. That's what I believed. And I honestly thought God and heaven, they're going to be celebrating this moment, this new beginning. So with this picture in my mind, a few days later, I did come clean. And yeah, it was the hardest thing I'd ever had to do in my life. Life started to unravel. It eventually got better. That's a story for a different time. But right now I want to share what I learned and experienced and hopefully help some of you come clean if that is where you are at. So I knew for a while that I was going to have to come clean if I was going to see any change in my life. At the time, it just seemed impossible and too much to handle. And I think on my own, it really honestly was too much to handle. So what happened? How'd I do it? What changed? Well, like all hard things that I've had to do in life, I did it with the help of God and others. So coming clean was not something that I had the strength to do. And the truth is, I didn't even know I was going to come clean until the day I did. I was on a bike ride, and I'm not even a biker. Is it biker? Is it biker? Is it cyclist? I need to look that up. I'm a runner, but here I am on a bike, of all places. And at some point during that ride, I had this realization that today is the day. Basically, there was this sense of peace about what was going to happen. There was clarity on what I had to say. And yeah, there was a lot of fear. Lots of fear, anxiety, all of that. In fact, by this point in my life, the fear and the anxiety, it was just a constant thing I woke up with. But I believe in that moment, God gave me courage and strength and even comfort to go basically do the hardest thing I'd ever had to do. Say the worst stuff I ever had to say, the truth, and start owning my wrongs and to allow my life to blow up so that I could start putting it back together. The seeds for this moment had been planted long before this, but now I was ready. I was desperate. I was fed up. I was tired, and I was ready to just let God's will happen to me. And he gave me exactly what I needed to let that happen. Now, don't get me wrong. God has given me strength and comfort and courage before and after this moment. But this was an incredible gift of grace at an incredible moment and turning point in my life. God gave me what I didn't have to do what I had to do. And then he stayed with me through it, and I came clean. One of the seeds that had been planted leading up to this moment was belief, a belief that things would be okay. I shared how my friend said the right things at the right time from the Gospel of Luke to give me this picture of heaven's coming clean celebration. That's just one example of how people help me. So I had this belief that in terms of me and God, we were going to be okay. But I also had this belief that I was going to be okay here and now. I believed that things were going to be okay because I was witnessing it. When you get into 12-step groups, you are surrounded by people who have come clean. So many people before me had done what I feared the most. They'd stepped into the unknown, they'd faced the consequences, they owned their stuff, and they faced reality, and they survived. And not only that, they were doing good. One thing I was certain of is that if I lived the rest of my life in hiding, life was going to suck. Now, I had no idea what my life was going to look like if I came clean. That was until I met guys who had come clean. I saw the fruit of confession and taking ownership for your wrongs. I saw what maturity looked like, what growth, healing, redemption, restoration looked like. When you see that in other people, you start to believe, maybe I'm going to be okay. Maybe this is going to work out. God has been using other people's stories of redemption and recovery and restoration to lead people to do the same things. And he did that for me. Surrounding myself with people who had walked this path before me, it helped me believe I would be okay if I went through with this. And when I did go through with it, these same people were there to support me, to help me, and to get me through the fallout. And they've been helping me ever since to heal, to grow, and to mature. Another thing I gained from this experience was a deeper understanding of what trust and hope look like in our life. When I look back on that day, when I came clean, it seems like the first time I truly trusted God with my life. Now, that might sound odd for me to say, especially since I was a pastor for so long. I was preaching the gospel. I was telling people to trust Jesus. But to me, I had never really truly made a choice that was that scary, that just surrendered so much control for how my life was going to play out and just let God have it. Like, your will be done. If there was ever a moment where I was letting go of the outcome of my life, it was that moment. I believed his will for me was good, and I acted on it. And I had all these scenarios in my mind about how things could play out. They all seemed horrible. But somehow God gave me so much grace in that moment that I was able to just do what I had to do and believe that God was going to take care of me. And to be clear, I knew I was going to lose a job, a ministry, probably a lot of friendships and relationships, maybe even my marriage. Any hopes and dreams I had were gone. But I believed if I went down this path, it was going to be good. It was going to take me to a good place. This was the path I needed to be on. It would be hard, but it would be right. And where I am today, I can tell you with 100% confidence, this is a much better path to be on. Yes, I lost things. Yes, it was hard. Yes, it sucked. There was consequences. But what I gained since then, I can't imagine having not gone through with this. I believe God and heaven were celebrating that moment, but now I feel like I can even celebrate that moment, which is awesome. So I'd like to wrap up with some encouragement. I think those who need to come clean, you most likely know it, and maybe you're even watching this right now. I knew it for a long time, but the fear about being found out, the shame about who I'd become, the guilt about what I'd done, it was just too much, and it just sucks the life out of you. There's where you are, which is miserable, and then there's where you want to be. This life where you're free and you're experiencing joy, and you're following Jesus and you don't hate yourself. And the thing between here and there is coming clean. I can tell you from experience, there is no way around this. There are no shortcuts, there are no hacks, there are no tricks. There is just going through it. So some encouragement. You are not alone. You are not the first person to screw up, keep secrets, or feel the way you feel. I know what it's like. Many people do. A lot of us feel like we're hiding something, and some of us took that step to get out from under it. We did not do it alone, and we did not do it by our own strength. If it seems overwhelming, it is. If it seems impossible, I get it. I thought that too. But I thought it was impossible because I was trying to find a way to do it on my own, by myself. But that is not how trusting God works. Coming clean, confession, whatever you want to call it. We don't do it by our own might or our effort. We do it with the help of God, and we do it with the support of others. So seek help from God and seek support from others. Check out the video Known and Loved to learn more about how God cares and loves us through others. Link is in the description. Finally, know that there's a celebration unlike anything you've ever seen, just waiting to be unleashed in heaven the moment you come clean. This moment you repent, where you turn away from hiding and your secret sins, and you turn towards God's grace, His love, and His will. Many of us have stepped out into the unknown. And while there's a lot of uncertainty about what happens once we come clean, what's not up for debate is that God is going to take care of you, even when it doesn't seem like it. And you're going to begin a process that will lead you towards growth, freedom, and faithfulness. Come clean. It's definitely worth it. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this content, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. But mostly, share this with anyone you think would benefit. My mission is to create resources that help people live more faithfully, and if you share it, that would be a big help. Thanks.